So, what are some studies in psycholinguistics you've done?
So uh several. So I've done some looking at like I said, different predictions that people make. Um One thing that I've looked at is when you have um context telling you so using what's called implicit causality. So if I say like Harry got mad at Ron after he spilled the juice,
Mm.
who's the he?
Yeah,
It,
that's the research I did.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you participated in that one.
I participated in that,
Oh.
and it was so freaking long. It got to a point where like it's like I'm done with this.
So yes, to be fair, these psycholinguistic experiments, especially ones dealing with sentences, are often long and
Yeah.
tedious. And there are ways to get around that, but they end up leaving you with less control over your items, which
Yes.
makes it hard. So anyway, yeah, these are long experiments. So looking at like based on this context, who am I predicting you to talk about?
Mm.
And then what happens when the sentence then disconfirms that.
Hmm.
So, in this one study, a neurolinguistic one that I did, we were looking at something like, um, let's see if I can remember the actual item. Nervous parent Jackson was impressed with midwife. I don't remember the name the RAs my students gave her. We'll say midwife Matilda or something. Um, when when you say he's impressed with her, you expect me to say something about him again. I mean, sorry, about something about her,
Uh-huh.
because you want to know what she did that was so impressive.
Mhm.
So, nervous parent Jackson was impressed with midwife Matilda when you're expecting me to say she,
Uh-huh.
and then maybe you'll expect something that midwives do, like when she delivered the baby successfully.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was looking at prediction of the pronoun, and then based on that pronoun and the context, prediction of the verb.
Mm.
And you can do measure brainwaves to see how well people are how much people are predicting these verbs, how the words, how hard they are to access in your head. But then I was looking at what happens when you get he instead.
Hmm.
Um, does that change your prediction? Do you no longer predict deliver? Because if you think he is the parent,
Right.
then it's not going to be the parent delivering the baby. Um, yeah, and that study was interesting because we found that people treated the he in different ways. So there were some people that had one brain response that sort of indicated maybe surprisal that we were talking about the person they weren't expecting.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, in which case, we found that they no longer were predicting deliver.
Mhm.
But there were other people that got he, and their brain response indicated either that they were that it so indicated they were doing some sort of reanalysis. So either they were thinking, "Oh, that's a typo. You meant she,"
Huh.
and they still predicted deliver,
Uh-huh.
or that same brain response was compatible with a response where they were like, "Oh, I thought the midwife was a she. Looks like the midwife's a he." So still doing reanalysis, but either way, still thinking I'm talking about the midwife, and they still predicted deliver.
Interesting.
So some people relied more on their predictions of who you're talking about and kept those.
Mhm.
Other people, when they got the unexpected pronoun, were willing to abandon those predictions, and they predicted different verbs.
Huh.
Can you actually like see how long people spend in each page? Because I remember looking at questions like that, and I had to reread a sentence like, "Well, am I reading this right?" Because I
Uh-huh.
because I went back and forth. Like it took me a while. It's like okay,
Yes.
more or less I'm going.
Yep.
I know more or less what's going on here.
Yep. You can. You can. So the midwife one, we presented them at a standard rate because the brain response we were looking at didn't really. It's sensitive enough that we don't have to get reaction times. Or you can combine them, but the one you were doing, um, is the type of experiment where you can measure reaction times, and you can actually measure it where you let them move one word at a time through the sentence and see where they're slowing down. Or you can do eye tracking and let them see the whole sentence and see where they slow down and also where they go back and like
Oh,
what they look at. So there are lots of different measures that look at difficulties in processing, that are really cool.
and so this definitely helps with the reading processing. Is that correct?
It can. Yep.
And how do you so a lot of people who learn languages want to improve their reading speed.
Mhm.
What's the best way in your opinion?
Oh, that's a good question that I don't know. So I know like what things people do when they read,
What do people do?
but I mean, they people skip words, and that's a totally normal and natural thing to do
Hmm.
because you can see parts of words beyond what you're fixating on.
Mhm.
Um, and more proficient readers tend to do bigger skips
Hmm.
because they can get more information from their peripheral vision, their parafoveal vision.
Interesting.
Um, but I don't know how to train people to do that. Um,
That's fair.
But like the readers, for example, so I've noticed as well that these proficient quick readers are they more likely to misinterpret the information given the speed at which they're reading?
Potentially. So there's always this speed accuracy trade-off, they
Yeah.
call it, where the faster you go, the less accurate you're going to be. Um, and so, yeah, that's definitely a concern. So if you want to completely understand what you're reading, go slowly.
Hmm.
But reading for speed, it's okay to skip some things and you'll get less out of it, but you'll be faster for sure.